I feel like something here that's interesting, right, is that you say, hey, okay, you want to make it limited edition. You want to say it's only available till then. There's a lot of pushback a lot of times from artists being like, I don't want to do that. It feels salesy. It feels weird. And it's like, it's really not. It's just literally like you would talk to your friend. You wouldn't have an open-ended offer and be like, hey, I've got this futon that I'm getting rid of, and if you want to pick it up sometime in the next 5 years, like, be my guest. It's like, hey, I'm moving. You have until Friday to pick this thing up. Like, do you want it or not?
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast, brought to you by IndiePRO.io.
What's up, Indies? Welcome back to the Creative Juice podcast. This is episode 224. I'm your host, Jack McCarthy. With me is my co-host, Mr. Ed Isola. We're going to be doing something a little bit different in this episode, and I think we're both pretty darn excited about it. I feel like we say that in every episode, but this one really is going to be different.
This one's going to be cool because this is something that we developed that's designed to kind of help you take a product and put it into a great offer. And I find this one, I think it's going to be really helpful because for a very long time, crafting an offer was something that I stressed out over, in the sense that it took me multiple days to figure out what the products were going to be and pricing and offering and all this kind of stuff. And this kind of simplifies that entire process for you to hopefully help you make an offer in 10 minutes or less.
Yeah, this is an SOP that we use at the IndieX agency with our clients all the time. It helps us put together offers with our clients very quickly so that there are no blockers and that we can get moving towards actually making an offer to fans. So that's the goal of this episode, to give you guys the framework on how to take a product from your store and turn it into an irresistible kind of offer. And I think there are really three big umbrella points that each of these sort of steps go over. And that's really the idea of increasing the value of the offer, adding urgency, adding scarcity, and adding exclusivity. And once you can do those four things, you will be able to take a product and turn it into a really good offer. And you can do it really quick. So let's get right into it. Ed, what's step number one here?
We started the first bullet point.
Let's start the first bullet point.
I just got the worksheet up. So, I think to Jack's point, there's a couple things like that you want to keep in mind. And this is going to walk you through that. So number one is literally the broadest question, which is like, get an idea of what is the product that you want to offer your fans. To me, this means, hey, what's the core product, right? So we're gonna offer a t-shirt, we're gonna offer a CD, we're gonna offer a crew neck, we're gonna offer a hat. Like, what is that main offer? What's that main item that you want your fans to have?
That's a great starting point for a lot of indies, because I think when it comes to putting together offers, it so often is like, well, I can't make new merch right now. I've only got to work with what's in my store. Starting with the product allows you to pick out like, okay, I'm going to make an offer today. I'm going to put something together. What can I choose from? What is the palette of options that I have in terms of products? That's why you start with product. You pick out what it is you want to offer, whether it's new or whether it's something old.
And that removes, to Jack's point, that removes all these hypotheticals of like, well, I don't have this, or I don't have that, or I could get this in 2 months, or, it's like, if you want to make an offer, what do you have? Pick the item, and then let's go to step number 2, which we've listed as what is the cost of creating the product. This is all aimed at building the offer out with value, but also making sure that you can still maintain a profit, right? So like, first you pick your item, and then you write down and say, what is the cost of that? So I'm going to offer a t-shirt. It cost me $10 to print the t-shirt. That's your cost of goods. But so you look and you write down the cost of your goods and say, all right, I'm offering a t-shirt. The cost to print that t-shirt is $10. The next step, you'd want to write down, what's your shipping? What does it cost to ship domestic? What does it cost to ship international? So at this point, you know that you're printing these shirts. It costs you $10 to print the shirt. It costs you $5.95 to ship it domestically, probably $12 international. And you're starting to collect all this information. And from there, you kind of have a baseline of what your costs to send this item to your fans will be before you add any free bonuses.
Exactly. Yeah. I think this kind of gives you the baseline to start with. And now the next steps, you move on to actually adding value to that product and turning it into an offer. You've got your baseline of like, I know what this is going to cost me, bare bones, nothing added, no discounts, just like straight up, I know what my bare minimum margins are going to look like. And now the next step is starting to add on value. So what I would look to ask myself next is, what are low cost, high margin items that you can bundle with this product to really make it have more dollar value and seem more exciting to your fans? And then how much are those add-ons worth? So you can think about things like free shipping. You know what those are worth because you just calculated out the shipping costs. You could look at something like adding in a CD. That might only cost you an additional $1 per unit, but the added value of that type of item or product to this offer could be an additional, $7 in value or $10 in value, so on and so forth. So you can think about things like CDs. You can think about free shipping. You could think about posters, t-shirts. T-shirts are definitely a more expensive, slightly mid-margin item to add to this. But you can also think about things like handwritten lyrics. You can think about bonus items like shot glasses or koozies. Kind of the sky's the limit here with these low cost, high margin things that you could be baking into your offer.
And what's really funny about this too, and I think this is something that it took me a little while to kind of grasp it, is that you have your cost per goods. So the money that you have to pay to print a shot glass, and then you have your value, which is in the store, the shot glass sells for $10. So when you are calculating your back end of, hey, what does it cost me to make this product or make this bundle with the low cost, high margin add-ons, it would be like $10 for the shirt plus $1 for the shot glass plus $5 for shipping. So you're at $16. But then you can tell people and say, hey, you're getting a $20 shirt value and a $10 shot glass value and a $6 shipping. You're getting $36 of value in this package, and we're going to sell it to you for $22. And it's kind of just balancing out like the back end versus what you tell people. And that's why I think it's really cool to list out what's your cost per good on this item and what is the actual value of it, because then you just sum these columns up and you end up saying like that, the infomercials, right? We're going to give you $75.
Yeah. Value stack.
Yeah, we're going to give you $75 of value for $29.99. And that's like always inflated, but it makes people feel good. And it's just, like you said, value stacking. It's the way to make a proper offer.
Yeah. And we can even get into like why it is an ethical thing to do, because I know some people might feel that that's slimy. We could talk about that when it comes to actually adding urgency into why, value stacking and explaining pricing in a way that makes sense to people given a limited amount of time. But we'll get into that in a second here. But that's a great point, Ed. Like that's really what this comes down to, is you want to price out those low cost, high margin items to really figure out like what your next baseline is looking like. So then you can figure out what your pricing is. And then in addition to this, to continue to add value, you want to think about what kind of free items that you can include with this offer, meaning free for you to provide. So you can think about things like adding a signature or a handwritten note. You could think about photos. You can think about adding things like stickers or other fulfillment goodies that come along with it, or just special packaging. These are things that from a cost of goods perspective are typically so minimal that they're not needing to be factored into your cost. You're looking at things that might just be your labor, so to speak, or, a penny for stickers or 3 cents for stickers or whatever it might end up being at a massive scale.
Yeah. And these are things too that like, this is like a elbow grease edition is how I always think about it. It's like all it requires you to do is sign a CD or write a note. And sometimes people are lazy and they don't want to do that. But this creates so much value if you're saying like, okay, I got my shirt and it comes with this additional product of a shot glass. But then in addition to that, you get a signature and you get a handwritten note and you get a Polaroid picture that I took on tour. Those last three don't cost you anything, but they're probably cooler than the shot glass. And so that's where, especially this applies to everybody, but especially if you're starting off and they're thinking like, how do I get people to want this? This is how you do it. You add stuff on. And then we've seen over time, like this works for grassroots artists. And then the second that a affirmation level artist or an ascension level artist does this, it's just people lose their minds and they're giving me a free sticker and they've signed this thing. It's like nobody does that, but it's so basic and people really love it. So you can get a lot of added value from these free bonuses, and there's no wrong idea. That's something I want to stress here. Like, if it feels on brand to you, do it. We had somebody once at IndieX who went in her backyard. I think she lived in had a flower field in her backyard, and hand-picked and pressed flowers and put them into a card where she wrote a note. So then the offer was like, get the CD plus a handwritten note plus a hand-picked flower that I individually picked for you. And it's just like, wow, that's cool,
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really great point. These are all hopefully this covers adding value. Now we get into the processes of figuring out urgency, scarcity, and exclusivity. And this is where the value kind of compounds upon itself, because all of a sudden people need to take action either because they're a part of a select group, or there is only so many available, or this is only happening for a certain amount of time. So think about questions like this. Number one, how do you make this product be a part of a limited edition kind of offer? So there might only be X number printed or available, or each item is numbered. So there might be 1 of 100. That kind of thing is, again, sort of a free add-on as well, to be able to simply number the CDs or number the t-shirts. I think that's a cool way to add a sense of scarcity. Or you could say something like, there's only 50 of these vinyl copies that are available with the bonuses. All of a sudden the scarcity becomes, oh snap, this bundle is only available for up to 50 of them. And then after that, all the cool stuff that's packaged with it is gone. And I'm not getting all of that value added for no extra cost. That makes an offer really interesting from a scarcity perspective. From an urgency perspective, these are very simple. It's date-based stuff, right? The offer is only available till the end of next week. The price goes up after Christmas. The bonuses are gone after Ed's birthday. Those are the type of urgency plays that you can use.
I feel like something here that's interesting, right, is that you say, hey, okay, you want to make it limited edition. You want to say it's only available till then, or all these things you just said. There's a lot of pushback a lot of times from artists being like, I don't want to do that. It feels salesy. It feels weird. And it's it's really not. It's just literally like you would talk to your friend. You wouldn't have an open-ended offer and be like, hey, I've got this futon that I'm getting rid of, and if you want to pick it up sometime in the next 5 years, be my guest. It's like, hey, I'm moving. You have until Friday to pick this thing up. Do you want it or not? If not, totally cool. So that's just kind of the way that I think about getting over that hump of it's okay to put an end date of a sale. And the other thing too is saying things are limited edition and they're hand signed and they're hand numbered. That's really cool. As a fan of bands, when I see that for a band that I like, I jump at the opportunity to get that. So you kind of have to get your mind right in the sense of you are an artist that people like, and you need to treat yourself and your offers that way, especially early on, because you'll set the precedent down the road that these things, one, have value, but two, they are cool. If you think they're cool, people will think they're cool. And the only thing I would really, really, really strongly advise you against is saying that, hey, we have these hand numbered 1 out of 50, but then you go and sell, 300 of them. It's that's the one part of this. It's don't say you have 50 and then sell 300 of them. But if you legitimately are numbering it 1 out of 50, it's great. That's fantastic. That's really cool. And those are collector's items. So be comfortable making cool sales offers to your fans because they want it. You're doing, I always say this, you're doing a disservice to your fans if you aren't making them cool limited edition offers, because the people that are here in May of 2022 that are still here in 3 years for you, they want to have that signed CD of your first album that nobody else has. They want to have that shirt. They want to have that hand-picked flower. They want these things. So if you don't do that, you're doing a disservice to them.
Yeah, you're not allowing them to go a bit deeper with you. And to your point, Ed, about feeling weird about setting a timeline on an offer, for example. Like, it's very simple. Like, if you're going out on the road or back into the studio in, 3 days or 3 weeks or a month, like, you're not going to have the time to write out handwritten notes or sign a whole bunch of CDs again after that. So realistically, there are deadlines and timelines that you have to follow as an artist that, probably necessitate the ending of things like this. Let's say, for example, you were offering a live stream or a virtual hangout, like a Zoom session with your fans as a part of an offer. Well, if you're going to be on the road in 2 weeks and you're doing this as like a pre-tour kickoff, like once you're on the road, you're not going to have the time to do that. So of course there's a time limit for it. Of course there is. That just makes good sense. So yeah, shift your frame of thinking towards the realities of what are in front of you, and that won't feel so weird anymore. I think that was really important to say. I totally agree with you. The next piece when it comes to urgency, scarcity, and exclusivity is talking about exclusivity. Who are you making this offer to? And we've talked plenty about segmentation and who to make different kinds of offers for on this show before. But you can think about, like, is this just a general offer that's being made to your whole audience? Or maybe you're only making it available to your Patreon members if you have a Patreon or a membership site. Maybe it's only available to your customer list, people who have already bought from you. Maybe it's only available to email list subscribers and you're keeping it sacred for those people and allowing them access to something that the rest of the world doesn't get. Or maybe it's just available to any of the above, but only until X date, like, hey, I'm giving this to you guys first, like, don't tell anybody, but after, next Thursday, the rest of the world is going to see it and it's going to be public. That's a play that a lot of fans really dig. They feel like they're getting, exclusive access to something before the rest of the world. And it's like, hey, I wanted to give you a chance to get this so that, once it's out into the rest of the world, I didn't want you to miss the opportunity to have it first.
It all just comes down to being honest with people. And it feels weird to say that's an angle that's worked really well for me, because it wasn't an angle, right? It was like legitimately, hey, you guys are on our email list. You get this first, and then everybody else gets it. And it was a real statement. So don't go into it lying to people, but if it's real, then it's cool, which is great. So I think kind of the final wrap up in this is that we've talked about what are your items going to be, what are your costs per goods, and that's where you then probably are saying, well, what do I charge people for this offer? And that's where you can kind of take your, a lot of times I will charge shipping, so I won't include that in the cost of the offer. But if you're going to do free shipping, you definitely should. But so all you got to do is take your cost of goods and say $10 to print the shirt, $2 for the added bonus of the shot glass, 3 free bonuses that cost me no money. So my total price is X amount, right? And then you just reverse engineer and say, I want to make a 40% profit on this. So let me figure out what 40%, this is 40% of what, and there's your offer price. And that feels totally fair. And if you look at it and say, oh, well, it feels too much to charge $32 for whatever, you can set it. And so you can kind of look at your margins and make sure that you are making money, not just blindly setting a shirt at $20 and then your cost of goods is $22. Now you're losing $2 per order. Like, you don't want to do that. That's where we kind of went through and said, figure out what you want to offer, what the cost per goods are, figure out what's cool about it, and then you figure out what you're going to charge for it.
Yeah. And I think it's helpful to think in a few bands here, like what would be a full kind of like retail margin, like look to be above 60 to 70% margin as kind of like what you might consider full price. If you feel that that's winding up to be too expensive and doesn't feel like it would be competitive or something that your fans would take, look to 40% or above as kind of like the discounted. And then if you're talking about things like clearance and you're just trying to move stuff, maybe you're putting an offer together for, backstock merch that you really just want to get rid of. Maybe it's from your last tour, or maybe it's from your previous album cycle or something like that. You might look to just move something at like a 20% margin and maybe shake out some customers, or rather some first-time customers that have never bought from you before and are just looking for a deal. Those are 3 kind of good tiers to consider, I think, when pricing out and really doing like smart calculations based on your margins, like Ed said. So I think that's really important for pricing. The last piece of this puzzle is considering, is there any way that you're going to include risk reversal, what we call risk reversal, or some kind of guarantee in your offer? This just helps to get people over the comfort level of like, well, what if I don't like it? Or what if the shirt doesn't fit? And it doesn't always have to be something like a money back guarantee, right? You'll see this all the time in retail, in e-commerce, things like a 30-day money back guarantee, no questions asked. That kind of stuff is fairly normal. But you could also do something like free exchanges, where if, a shirt size doesn't fit or a product comes to them broken, of course, do an easy swap for them and make it simple. You can also do things like returns for store credit with, just an easy way for people to come back and buy something again. I think that those kind of guarantees are really helpful. Again, replace it if it's broken or doesn't fit. That kind of stuff those are easy risk reversals that don't actually put a whole lot of risk on you, but give your customers a little bit more assurance that, they're making a good buying decision. So that's like the last piece of the pricing and front-facing piece of this. And then what you do is, like we talked about at the very top of the episode, is list out everything that's included in the offer from the very first product to the added bonuses, and write down the individual dollar value for each of the pieces of this offer, the total offer value, like Ed was saying, in the value stack, and what you've decided to price it out with. And then you've got really all of the components of your offer that will make it valuable. And then you need to name it.
And you just the naming is the best part. You just pick a name that sounds like something you'd see on TV, or, I like to go for alliteration personally. It just sounds cool. But I mean, we've done things like Bag of Sunshine, Can't Feels Good Starter Pack, the Lovers Bundle. Just kind of come with a cool name, which I feel like if you're creative, this is typically one of the easier portions of coming up with an offer for creatives.
Yeah, I think what's helpful to think about here is to consider what's in the offer, like what are the individual parts, and consider how you can put them into the title, and not in a way that's lame. Not like CD and t-shirt bundle. Like that's not cool, But I think you can get pretty creative. Let's say, for example, it's your record on vinyl, and it's a t-shirt associated with a lyric from the album. So it could be like the Just a Little While mystery box or something like that, for example, for the 502s. I think that kind of thing can be useful to play into. You can also play into, if you're running a sales promotion around a holiday, for example, you can very easily just use that as part of the title of the offer or part of the name of the offer. But I would write down, 5 or 6 different names for the offer that you might run with, and then use that. I actually think it's really important to name the offer that you're making to your fans. That way, it's not coming across as just like, oh, they're just bundling something together and that's it. It adds that last little bit of legitimacy that it's like, this is something that was planned out and well thought out and actually packaged together for me as a fan, and not just like a shirt and CD bundle, which you so often see. I see this on artist stores all the time. It drives me nuts. Like during a pre-order, it's like, get the title, like it's title of the record CD, title of the record vinyl, CD and shirt bundle. It's like, what a lame freaking title. Like that is so lame.
Nobody wants to buy that, Yeah, I think David is cool. It's always really fun. My grandpa was in retail for a long time, and he's like, you always got to give things a creative name that makes people interested in them. It also makes it easier to refer to them when you're talking on social media and emails, to say like, grab the Sunshine bundle now through Friday, as opposed to grab the shirt and t-shirt, t-shirt and CD before Friday. It's like, that feels like you're trying to sell me something. Giving it a cool name feels like you're doing me a favor,
I think there's something to be said for that. Yeah. That like, if you're telling someone like, grab the CD and shirt bundle, it's like, oh, they're trying to sell me CDs and shirts, as opposed to like, check out the whatever, the bag of sunshine, or like, make sure you guys check out what's inside the bag of sunshine before Friday. Like all of a sudden that becomes like part of a story, and it's something that people would actually be intrigued by, as opposed to like peddling product. It becomes about the offer and the value that's in it, and not the products, by themselves, because nobody just wants trinkets. I think that's an important consideration to make as to why naming is so important. But that's the process, gang. That is the 10 minutes and done product to offer process. We use this at IndieX all the time. So I hope going through this little SOP walkthrough here on Creative Juice today gives you guys some stuff to consider for making some cool offers to your fans throughout the rest of this year. There's lots of time in 2022 to be doing this. So I've got nothing more to say about this process except you should go and do it. It doesn't take a lot of time. We just, spent a half an hour or so talking about it, but you can really knock this out in like 10 minutes time.
Godspeed. Make some cool offers.
All right, Indies, thanks so much for joining us. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.